tout le monde. Bonjour. OK. Merci d'être venu à mon talk. On n'a pas beaucoup de temps et franchement, je suis bien pressé. Immédiatement après mon talk, j'ai me casser vers l'aéroport. Alors, merci d'être venu. Merci beaucoup. On n'a que 50 minutes. Combien de minutes?
50.
OK. Jusqu'à quelle heure? OK. Alors, à midi. Ouais. Alors, aujourd'hui, je vais vous parler de Spring Boot juste un peu. Franchement, je vais changer de langue, je vais changer en anglais parce que moi, je me débrouille assez bien en français, mais quand même, ma langue maternelle, c'est code. OK? Alors, le code va s'exprimer lui-même. Il ne faut pas le français ou l'anglais. So, thank you for coming. Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à me les poser par email, par Twitter, en personne, mais je serai pressé immédiatement après, OK? Qui d'entre vous? How many of you are on Twitter? Twitter. OK. Un peu déçu. I'm not going to lie. Just a little bit. How many of you are on email? Email. See, it should be the other way. More Twitter, less email. Email, not so good. Twitter, great. If you want to follow along, this code is online. It's on Bootiful microservices on GitHub. Okay? A little bit about me. My name is Josh Long. I'm the Spring Developer Advocate. Avant de continuer, il faut absolument pas oublier de mentionner que si vous avez plus de questions après mon talk, mon collègue et mon ami Stéphane Nicole sera ici donner un talk sur Spring Boot dans le royaume de web. Alors, si vous voulez en savoir plus, ne ratez pas son talk, OK? Anyway, so moi, je suis Josh Long. I'm Josh Long. I'm the Spring Advocate or Spring Evangelist at Pivotal. I'm online. If you have questions, like I say, email. I'm a Java champion. That was new. I was recently nominated a Java champion. I'm the author now of 4 books, working on my 5th. That will come out hopefully, inshallah, next year. I work for Pivotal. We have lots of open source stuff. How many of you have heard of Tomcat? Tomcat? Okay. What about Spring? Spring. Okay. What about RabbitMQ? Okay. RabbitMQ is a message queue. What about Cloud Foundry? They mentioned it in the keynote. On l'a mentionné pendant le keynote. It's Linux for the cloud. It's the way to build an operating system for a data center, not just a single machine. So, here we are. It's 2015. I was here last year. When we were here last year, we talked about the same thing. In these last few years, we have seen that there's a move towards cloud platforms. There's a move pushing people to build software that responds quicker to the changing world of business. And this is always the case, right? It's always been true that people are trying to build applications faster and faster. But now we have the ability to automate much more of the construction of applications, right? With the cloud, we have the ability to go faster. But the cloud requires us to think a little differently than the way we did before about how we build applications. The economics of modern cloud platforms are very different than the way than the economics of the cloud, or the economics of building applications 10 or 15 years ago. And so the way that we build applications has to change a little bit. So we, on the Spring team at Pivotal, have tried to do a good job, have tried to embrace some of these new ideas. And that is what we have sort of built inside of Spring Boot. Spring Boot lets you do a lot of things, right? It is a way to consume and build rapidly. So we're going to, in this next 15 minutes or so, we're going to look at Spring Boot and how you can use it to build applications quickly and safely, and hopefully deploy them into a cloud. Now, the goal today, le boot aujourd'hui, c'est, ça n'a absolument rien à dire avec compréhension totale. Ça Ça s'agit plutôt de vous démontrer que c'est possible, you know? La destination, c'est plus important que la route, okay? So, we're going to see the destination. We're going to go through code, a lot of code. Je vais taper bien vite, okay? Mais it's not about each character. It's not about each stroke. It's about the final result, the speed. So, those were my slides. That's it. What do you think? I worked hard. Yes, the best I've done ever. Thank you. Thank you. I worked hard on them. I was up for almost an extra minute last night working on them. I was going to go to bed at like 12:01. I went to bed at 12:02 because I was worried about these slides for today. And there was still a mistake in them. I still had to change something when I got on stage. Lazy binding, you know, late binding. So anyway, let's get started. So we're connected here. Start.spring.io. Remember, at Pivotal, we care about production. I've talked about this before. We care about moving applications safely and quickly to production. How quickly can we move an idea to code, and then through testing, and then through operations, and then to production? To shortening that gap, shortening or making smaller that distance is very important to us because it means that you have the ability to execute faster. And if you have the ability to execute faster, you can do more, and if you can do more, you can respond better to business. So, of course, we care about that. We care about delivering value. And production, like I say, is our favorite place. To us, production is everything. To us, production is better than Disneyland, right? There's Disneyland, it's very happy. Production is much happier, much better, more fun. If you get a chance to visit production, do it. Great, great place. Bon séjour à production, okay? But the second place on the internet, the second place that I love more, or almost as much as production, is start.spring.io, okay? Now, start.spring.io is a place where you can start your journey with Spring Boot and Spring Cloud. Yesterday, I gave a talk on Spring Boot and Spring Cloud. It was a university talk. And while I was giving the talk, the new version, the GA release version of Spring Boot was released. So this is new. This is brand new. Yesterday, this was not here. 1.3.0 has been released today. So we're going to look at, or yesterday, we're going to look at that. What we're going to do is we're going to build a simple service called reservation service. And, you know, we have choices here, right? I can bring in dependencies this way. I can say I want to build a web application. I want to use REST repositories. I want to use the HAL browser. I want to use Vaadin. I want to use Ratpack. I want to use the remote shell. I want to use JPA. I want to use the H2 embedded database. I want to use Timeleaf. What else do I want to do? Do I want to do anything else? There's a lot of options. Let's go see if we can go shopping. We'll go down here and look. So, do I want any of this other stuff? I mean, I might, right? JPA, JOQ, MongoDB, Cassandra, config client security, Zookeeper support, Ribbon, Zool from Netflix, Zipkin for distributed tracing from Twitter. I'm going shopping. I'm just choosing the things that I want to use. Hazelcast, etc. AMQP, all these things. The actuator support, I'll choose that. Great. So that's all the kind of libraries that I want to use. In a real application, would you have all of these things in the same app? Probably not, right? I'm just trying to demonstrate stuff just to show you how easy it is to pull this stuff together. Here, you have your usual choices. The usual choices that you must make when you build a new project. For example, what is the group ID and the artifact name? This is Maven or Gradle, right? So, of course, you have that. You have the name, the description. Of course, we'll just leave that. The package. The version of Java. So 1.6, 1.7, or 1.8 are all supported. Of course, we support all three, but we recommend 1.8 because it's a wonderful language. How many of you are using 1.8? Oh, the rest of you. Faut absolument demander à vos chefs de vous appuyer en bougeant de 1.8, okay? It's the best. It's awesome. Java or Groovy, this is this was J Maghreb, not G Maghreb. Alors, Java. So I'll switch to that. And then finally, the packaging. This is a very important turning point in our journey. Si, au hasard, on est attrapé dans les 10 ans 2000, n'ayant pas l'habilité de procéder à l'avenir aujourd'hui, vraiment. Alors, choisissons war. Mais si vous êtes ici, avec moi, aujourd'hui, dans l'avenir, c'est-à-dire aujourd'hui, choisissons jar. OK? Attrapé dans le passé, war. Aujourd'hui, jar. This is part of our philosophy of make jar, not war. Now, you have choices. You have options. Either way. Okay, so generate project. Here we go. Oops. Delete all that. Generate project again. Open. Oh, I don't need that. I'm going to open this in my IDE. You can use whatever you want. How many of you are using Eclipse? Eclipse is awesome, right? How many of you are using NetBeans? NetBeans is awesome too. How many of you are using IntelliJ? It's pretty good too, right? So you can use whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Let's see. This is just a regular Maven build. So what we have here are dependencies. Let me make the font a little bigger here, my friends. More, bigger. Okay. We have dependencies. Each dependency corresponds to one checkbox on start.spring.io. These are opinionated dependencies. They contain everything you need to get started with this technology. So if you want to use JPA today, you'll get JPA2, you'll get Hibernate, you'll get all of the Spring Data modules. All that stuff is, it's included in this one dependency. So you don't have to think too much about how to pull this stuff together. If you want to support REST, and you want to use the REST repository support, there's all that. If you want to get started with Ratpack, a reactive web framework that doesn't use servlets, then you can use this, right? This is there as well. If you want to get started with Vaadin, a web framework that's based on GWT, right? This one here. Then you can use this as well, right? So it doesn't really matter. If you want to build web apps using Spring MVC, there's that. So all of this is just very opinionated. It brings in everything you need to be productive. Once you've done that, you have an empty public static void main class, like this one. And you have an empty unit test class, like that one. So this is just basic. I'm going to make it a little smaller, my friends. Even this is too much, okay? There you go. You can still read. No, you can't. It's too small. The struggle. Okay, we'll leave it like that. Anyway, you have an empty unit test class and an empty public static void main. Basic stuff. Now, this is not stuff you could have written this. Of course, you could have written this all by yourself. You don't need the generator to do this, but it is convenient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a simple domain to model objects of type reservation. It's going to use JPA, so I'm going to say private long ID at generated value at ID, enter, right, Devoxx persistence. I'm going to use a field, called the reservation name, and I'm going to make it a JPA entity, so I'll say at entity. Now, of course, I'm using Spring Data, so I could have easily used Cassandra or MongoDB or React or Couchbase or whatever, but JPA is very popular. I like it. It's fine. So we'll create a constructor for the object. We'll create another constructor. This one is for JPA, right? So that one's just for JPA. We're going to create a toString method because we can, like so. Inline the variable, and now I have a JPA entity. I'm going to move the entity into its own type. I'll make it public, like so. So I'll say public class reservation, and there we go. So now I have that. I want to create a repository. Now, a repository is a Spring Data repository. It's based on the design pattern called the repository pattern, right? And the idea is that I want to hide the boring, monotonous boilerplate creation, reading, updating, deleting, all that stuff. I want to let something else handle that for me. I want the framework to do it for me. So I'll say find by reservation name, like so. And what I'm saying is create a repository to manage instances of reservations whose primary key is long, right? This interface comes from Spring Data. There are methods for finding, sorting, deleting, delete in batch, etc., right? So all of this stuff is here, and it comes for free, but there are other repositories. You can use Mongo repository or Cassandra repository or Neo4j repository, etc. Spring is going to create this instance for me. It'll create the interface and the bean that implements it for me. And now I just want to create some dumb data. I want to create some sample data. So I'll say component, class, simple data, CLR, implement, command line runner. And this is an object that manages instances. It'll just create some simple data for me. So I'm going to create some data here like this. Well, first of all, I'm going to inject. I'm going to say @autowired, private, reservation repository. I'm going to inject it. This is to tell Spring, please find the bean and put it in my class. And then here, I'll say stream.of, and I'll say Bader, okay? Faisal, and then Mark, and I'll say Lucy and Stefan. There's 2 Stefans, and I gotta be careful. Patrick, of course. And then me, okay? So we have some people here. I'm gonna say for each name, this.reservationrepository.save, new reservation. So all I'm doing is I'm saving some names into the database, saving some records. And then here, down over here, I'm gonna say this.reservationrepository.find all of them. And then for each record that comes back, I'm just gonna print it out, okay? So here we go. Here we are. I'm gonna print everything that comes back. I'm using Java 8 lambdas. So that syntax means just create a method reference, right? So instead of me creating an anonymous class, I'm just saying Java call this method for every instance in this repository. And then I'm going to do the same thing for just my good friend Bader, okay? So I'll say find Bader for each system out print line, voila. And there we go. And now if I run this, Spring Boot is going to start up. It will find all of the objects that are annotated with component, and if they implement this interface, void run, it will call the method. It will call this run method, and it will pass the string argument array. So it's a good callback. It's a good notification of what is happening. Now, that's a good place to do ETL or data processing or whatever you like, okay? So I'm going to restart this, run it. By default, it's going to look, Spring will look for a data source bean of some sort. So I can do Oracle or Postgres or whatever, right? But I don't have to do that here because I have H2. It's an in-memory embedded database that's on the class path. So Spring Boot will already create that data source for me since I don't have another one already provided. Now, if I go here, you can see, of course, the data is there, right? All of the records from the database have been saved. The output is on the console. That's working. And then, of course, I searched for my friend Bader, and there he is also on the class path, or on the console. So that's working, but of course that's working, right? There was no question about whether this would work. We knew this was going to work. It's a demo. That's the point, right? Instead, I really just wanted to show you this. Now, this is the ASCII artwork in Spring Boot. This ASCII artwork here was contributed by people on the Spring team. On the Spring team, chez l'équipe Spring, il y a 2 docteurs qui travaillent autrement sur le physique nucléaire. Très brillant. Ils se sont rendus compte un jour de son appel vrai dans la vie. Pour avancer le monde, ils se sont mis à contribuer à Spring. Okay? Et ça me fait plaisir d'imaginer qu'un jour est arrivé un GitHub issue ou un Jira issue leur exigeant de contribuer à ASCII artwork. Et c'est merveilleux, n'est-ce pas? Incroyable. C'est une pièce d'art, à mon avis. Et bien sûr, you can change it. Of course you can change it, but why would you want to? Let's be honest. This is really, really good, right? Oh yeah. All right, peace. So this is really, really nice. And I want to just take a minute here to complain about a feature that I don't really like in IntelliJ, and I think we should, let's start a petition together, a change.org petition. So it's this. Why is this here? What the heck? Why would they contribute a, cacher le banner? Well, it's the worst thing ever. That feature gets rid of this. Ça va l'enlever. Oh, yeah. So why would you want that, right? I just think it's a really bad feature. Anyway, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. We don't care. So okay, so now I have data in the database. Everything is working. Let's create a REST API. It is 2015. So let's create a REST API. I'll say class reservation REST controller. And I'm going to inject my repository as well. Okay, like that. I'll say request mapping method equals get and value equals reservations. Right, so this is using Spring MVC to create a simple REST API. And I'm just going to return all the data from the repository there, right? So there you are. There's the basic repository. It's a class. I'm injecting it. I'm also going to make this a REST controller. And that's going to respond to HTTP GET. Okay, so I'm going to, I'll start it there. And I'll say localhost 8080/reservations. And there we are. My basic REST API. Nothing magical. It's nothing great. But let's be honest. I did a lot of extra work there. I wrote too much code for no reason. Because what I want to do is I want to say, here's my data. I want to create, read, update, and delete using HTTP post and put and delete and get and all that stuff, right? I want to do finders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw away that wasteful code, quelle perte, okay, all that extra code, and I'm going to annotate my repository as a Spring Data REST repository, okay? So I'll export it like that. I'll say path by name, and I'm going to annotate this. I'll say at param rn, and this will take my repository and export it for people to use from REST, right? This means that I can very quickly create new REST APIs. We don't have to waste too much time waiting for the REST API. So here's the old API, and now it's failing. Why? Repositories. Oh, repository REST resource. Ha. Wrong annotation. That's the problem with going too fast, my friends. Sometimes you make mistakes. So here we go. Give it a second. There we go. So there's the new REST API, automatically exported for us, right? So this has the same data as before. There's Bader, there's Faisal, there's Mark and Lucy and all that. But you'll notice that we also have links. These links are metadata. We see them all the time. When you go to Amazon.com and you click on the screen and you see a button and it says, oh, add the product to your cart. And then you put your payment information. Then you see another button and the button says, oh, if you want to confirm your selection, click here. And you go to a screen and it says you ordered this, 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 and your address is this, and your shopping cart information is this. Then you hit pay, and then voila, they will ship something to your home, right? This is a flow. You go from place to place to place, and the goal, le but, is to have something sent to your house, right? We do that because we're smart. We can see the screen. Our eyes are very, very good. We can see that the button says, click here to go to the next step. Click here, click here. So this is a conversation between us, the brains, and a screen, a computer screen with CSS. Well, APIs have to be the same kind of smart. Human beings are very smart, but REST clients are not that smart. So links, these links, tell a REST client, a simple REST client, what steps it can take next, right? If you have a REST client, a REST API for products in a shopping cart, of course you will not be given a link to get a refund, un remboursement, right? Il n'y a pas de lien pour rembourser un produit pas encore acheté. Right? That makes sense. There's state. The links only appear in the right states. That's how you build smart, self-describing REST APIs. This is very important in the modern world, right? So these links are here. Of course, you can customize it, right? So I can go here and I can build my own link processor. I'll say class resource or reservation resource processor implements resource processor of resource of reservation. And this is a callback as well. When Spring Data REST tries to render stuff, it's going to call this method and it's going to ask it, what do you want to do with the data? And I can say, well, give me the reservation, like that. Okay? And I'll say get ID is this, long ID. And I'll say, give me the links. I'm going to add my own link. Or here we go, add link. Like this, right? So I'm just adding a link, a custom link, and I can do this based on database state. I can say HTTP, s3.com, whatever, ID.jpg, and I can say profile photo. So there we go. Now I've managed to customize the application. I can restart it, like so. And the application will contribute a custom link to the output, right? And I can do that dynamically. There we go. So there's my profile photo link now. So it's very easy to customize and do what I want. This also supports deep linking. So I can go to 1, 2, 3. I can go to the search endpoint as well. I can go search, and it says, look, there's the find by reservation name. If I go to search by name like this, and I say rn equals Badr, it shows me just the result for Badr, right? There's the result in there and all the metadata as well. Even better, I can do paging and sorting. I can say page equals 1 and size equals 2, right? So there's the second, it's this page with this many records. And that's what you see here. And you even have links that says, oh, if you want to see the first page, the last one, the current one, the next one, etc. All that is here. So that's a very smart REST API, and you didn't have to waste a lot of time. Of course, this is a demonstration, so let's go ahead and build some other web-related things, right? So I'm going to go here. I'm going to build a service application. I'll go down and I'll say at controller. Okay. I'm going to add some space. Okay. Class reservation MVC controller. Okay. This is Spring MVC. This is the most popular MVC framework in the world right now. It's been around for 12 years. It's very modern, but it's also very simple, so there's a lot of documentation and so on. So you say private reservation repository. Okay, and I'm going to create an endpoint. Now this is a demo, my friends. I'm just doing a demo. Okay, this is, I want you to remember that this is a demo. So I'm going to use a URL that I would never ever use in production ever. It would be crazy, right? So it'll be something like reservations.php, right? So that's a demo, of course. So here we are. Enter. And it's an MVC demo, so I'll just add an attribute. I'll say reservations, this.reservation repository.find all. And I'm going to return a page that will be used by the framework to find the template, right? It's going to look for the template by default here. So it's going to, x.html. It's going to look for it in that directory. In this case, it's going to look for something called a time leaf template, right? Time leaf. So it's going to look for source, main resources, templates, reservations.html, right? That's what it's doing. Now, that is auto-configured. It's provided by this thing here, time leaf, Spring Boot Starter time leaf. So we'll go ahead and cheat a little bit just for lack of time. I'll get a microservice, and I'll say reservations. There's my code. This is a very simple template. Now, how many of you use JSP? .jsp. OK, condoléances. Je suis ici pour vous. Je vous donne des embrasse. si vous en avez besoin. La douleur, la blessure que vous a causé le JSP, c'est dommage, c'est terrible. Si jamais vous êtes entré au bureau pour le début du travail et vous voyez dans un coin le designer bien fâché, c'est parce que vous leur avez donné de JSP, ils n'ont pas la fidélité de l'ouvrir dans le browser, c'est de la merde, il n'y a rien, c'est exploité. C'est infidèle au design qu'ils vous ont donné. Alors, on ne peut pas aller retour avec le design au développeur, au designer, etc. JSP, c'est pas... Si vous voulez garder vos amis, ne l'employez pas. OK? Reservations.html. Timeleaf, c'est plus fidèle. OK? On peut l'ouvrir dans le browser, tout ça. Et c'est de HTML valide. Alors ça, c'est pour le surveiller, quoi. C'est pour le regarder dans le browser. Mais ça ne sera pas imprimé à runtime, OK? C'est juste pour le design. OK. Bon, je l'ai fait. MVC. Ça va loader the template. Tout ça. Bon, lançons. Now, this is just a simple example, of course. So I'll go localhost reservations.php, and there it is, my very simple template. But of course, this is only one of many ways. Another way to create a web app is to go to static and just send HTML directly. I'm going to create a new text file, hi.html. You know, in a lot of applications today, we don't see server-side generated stuff. You just see REST and then JavaScript, Angular, iOS, Android, etc. You don't have server-side generated at all. Here, you just put your React or Angular or comme vous voulez, and it'll be sent to the client without any changes. Another way to build an application is to use something called Vaadin. Vaadin, how many of you know GWT? GWT, so it's a way of constructing component-based user interfaces. You use Java to construct your interface. You know, it's another way. It's not our project, but it's a project supported by Vaadin, and they have a Spring Boot auto configuration. So I'll say theme, class, etc. Class reservation UI extends UI. Okay, and I'm going to implement that method. I'm going to create a table like so. Okay. T.setContainer data source new bean item container, and then I'll say reservation.class, and I'm going to inject the same data as before. Okay, say reservation repository, and there we are. This dot okay. Content is that T.set size full, and we start. Okay. Stop and rerun. So now, go to UI, and there's my simple JavaScript only. Il n'y a pas de HTML. C'est de JavaScript client-side, you know, du côté client, généré et lancé au runtime, okay? So this is all JavaScript, pas de HTML, right? It's GWT, transpilé en JavaScript, tous, sans beaucoup de problèmes. Okay, so that's another way to go. There are other ways to build applications. At the moment, I'm using the servlet specification, which is good. It's very rich, very, very powerful, very big community. But for a lot of use cases, it might be simpler just to use a very small reactive runtime. Right? If you're trying to do asynchronous reactive I/O, the servlet API has some support, but you have to know where to look. And it doesn't encourage it necessarily. Spring MVC, of course, supports asynchronous I/O on top of the servlet API, so that's there, but again, it's not the default. You can use Ratpack. Ratpack is a framework for doing asynchronous, non-blocking I/O all the way through. So I'm going to create a Ratpack handler. I'll say @enable Ratpack, and I'll say bean handler. Okay, and I'll say return C equals ctx dot get I forgot how to do it. Ratpack, Spring Ratpack. This is new. On a récemment sorti. Alors, le démo, c'est pas parfait. Pas encore. Mais un moment, s'il vous plaît. Spring Ratpack demo. Come on. Action. Oh yeah, action chain. Okay, so here we go. Action. J'ai oublié. Whatever, we'll come back to that later. So there's a lot of ways to go. I've forgotten how to do that one, so we'll leave it out. It's a new demo. Let's see what else. We've got a web application that talks to VOD, and we've got a user interface based on, server-side non-processed HTML, so localhost hi.html, like so. There's the output. Remember what I said earlier. We want to move this application to production. What are some of the things that stop our ability to move applications to production? Often, they're not related to building code, right? There's a great book called Release It by Michael Nygaard. He talks about the things that stop us, les choses qui nous empêchent de bouger le code en production, okay? The things that stop us are usually things that, the operations or production team cares about, So what are those things? Things that we can use to monitor the application, things that we can use to analyze the state of the application, to check its health and so on. Spring Boot wants to take care of those things from the beginning. So we have the Spring Boot actuator. This is on the class path. I can go here now to /metrics, and I can see that, oh look, I've made 2 requests to UI with status code 200. Okay? I can see that I have so much memory, I have so much processors, etc. I can go to env, and I can see the environment of the application, the properties of the application, as well as the environment variables. And I can even see that my insensitive information, my keys, are hidden. So they're not there, it's masked away. If I go to mappings shows me the HTTP endpoints and how they're being processed. So reservations.php only responds to GET, and this is the Java controller that processes it, the one that we just wrote. It's good for understanding, from a security perspective, what is visible to HTTP traffic. Info is empty. It has a link, but otherwise it's empty. This is a good place to put your service ID. You can customize it. You can change it. You put your service ID, the version, the artifact, all of that goes there. You have beans. Shows you all of the Java objects and how they are wired together, how they are arranged together. Spring creates objects for you. Here they are, right? For example, my reservation UI lives in this Java class. It has this dependency. So you can see the relationship and how things are working. You can also go to this endpoint, which is very useful, /health, santé, right? So what is the state of the application, the heartbeat? I go here, and I can see, oh, look, the disk space is this. Here's the la base de données, the connection pool, and of course the link, right? So this is from the validation query. Select one from dual, juste pour checker la connexion. This is all very useful, but this is automatic. I want to customize it. I want to change what it shows. So I'm going to go back to my application here. We'll get rid of this, and we're going to register a custom endpoint, a custom health check. I'll say @bean health indicator, right? Return new health indicator. And you'll notice that there are lots of other health indicators already provided, déjà fournis par le framework, right? So Cassandra, Data Source, Disk Space, Elasticsearch, JMS, Java Mail, MongoDB, RabbitMQ, Redis, and Solr. So these are already there. If you have the right libraries, this will automatically work. But I want to contribute my own, right? I have an idea for my application in my business, what it means to be healthy. So I'm going to contribute. I'll say return health. I can say down, out of all the service, down, up, etc. But instead, I will say Devoxx am j'adore Devoxx Morocco et build, okay? So that's my current status. And of course, this is a great fit for Java Lambdas. So there you go, nice and small. But of course, I want to secure the endpoints. I want to move them under a separate path so that I can secure them, right? So let's customize this a little bit. I'll go to application.properties, and I'll customize. I'll say management.contextPath equals admin, right? I'll say server.port equals 8,000. I'll say management.port equals 9,000. So I'm overriding the defaults. I'm changing parts of the application. This auto-completion, comme je l'ai cliqué, ça me montre une classe comme ça, ça fonctionne, ça marche dans NetBeans, Eclipse, and IntelliJ. C'est disponible à tous, okay? So if I run the application now, I can see different information. Let's see, here we go, restart. So that doesn't work anymore, right? 8080, ne marche plus. 8,000 reservations, there's the data. 9,000 /admin/health, j'adore Devoxx Morocco, and that's there as well, right? So now I can secure everything. I can say everything below admin, secure. This is just REST, of course. There are other ways to get access to this information. I can go to JMX, right? So here's this. I can say JConsole or JMC if you are using the new version. JMC is awesome. I'll say insecure connection, mbeans, Spring Framework endpoint, and it's the same information as before. Here's the health, here's the operations, get data, and it says health indicator, I love Devoxx Morocco, of course. Now, my other favorite way to look at this information is to use the remote shell. So, if I configure Spring Security can talk to any identity provider I want, including LDAP and Kerberos and so on, right? But I'm going to use the default username and the password, which is printed on the shell, since I have not configured Spring Security. So I'll say SSH-P 2000 user at 1270.0.1, paste, good ASCII artwork. Dans une crise, c'est calme, c'est tranquille, c'est important, okay? Help, great, okay, I can show the metrics. There's the metrics, sans l'avoir touché, ça c'est animé, okay? I show system prop ls, okay, there we go. I can show endpoint list, there we go. I can say endpoint invoke health endpoint, right? And it shows me, voila, j'adore Morocco, okay, Devoxx Morocco. Okay, my favorite perspective is dashboard. Can you see that? That's Java threads in the running application, plus all of the pools of memory, all of the memory in the system. So if you're on Java 8, it'll show you permgen. I'm sorry, if you're on Java 6 or 7, it'll show you permgen, Java 8 metaspace, right? So you have lots of options for visualizing the application. Now this is good because you want to be able to deploy it and you want to be able to understand what's happening. But even running the application is important, right? Of course, earlier I mentioned that you can deploy this easily into any application server. It supports .war, of course. But you can also deploy as a standalone executable jar, right? Executable jars are really nice because you can take them, put them inside of an email, send it to my grandfather, and he can run it, right? Because he has applets on his computer. so he can run it. So if your operations team complains that they can't run it, it's okay. Tell them to talk to my grandpa. So, configuration, executable, true. This is very special, okay? If I go to the application here in downloads, reservation service, okay. I say Maven -D, we have very little time, so clean install. CD target, Java -jar. Of course I can run it like this, right? This is easy. I can run Java -jar. That I've been able to do for a long time. I can even override, I can change or customize things. I can say -d spring.port, or sorry, server.port equals 8010. So I provide a specific override value here. This is overriding what's in the compiled code. So now it's on 8010 instead of 8,000, right? That's fine. I can even do, export, or I could do export server new line space port space 8020 application.yaml, cat application.yaml, and then do java -jar reservation.jar, reservation service. And now if I go here to the output, it's on port 8020, right? I can even do export server _ port equals 8030, java -jar reservation jar. So I can change anything in that property file using the environment variables, using -d, using YAML files, etc. But of course, this is all, pretty cool. Even if you manage to get this code working, though, how are you going to run it? You have to take this jar, as simple as it is you have to write a script to handle the process, to start, to stop, if the PID, you have to manage PID management, all this stuff. This is very, very boring code. Nobody wants to write it. So a quick question, my friends. How does the JVM load a jar? It's a very weird question. Does it read from the top, en bas, ou bien du fond, en haut? Right? Ouais. Ouais, exact. So it's not obvious. The operating system reads from top en bas, right? Top down. But Java reads from the bottom up. So watch. This is my jar here. Less reservation service.jar. Okay? Bash. Script. Bytecode. Right? So what that does is, what that means is I can do this. I can say, like that. Sans avoir même précisé Java -jar. But this is a script now. It responds to, if you remember, it responds to this. Oop, too fast. Start, stop, restart, force reload, run, etc. This is for initd or systemd. So you take the jar, put it in initd, you're done. Go home, have some fun, hug your family. Okay? So we have looked today at Spring Boot. We've looked at how to change the ASCII artwork and why you should never do that. We've looked at how to use the application to build web apps and to talk to databases and to manage transactions and to make very, very quick work of handling queries. We've looked at how to customize web applications. We've looked at how to monitor and visualize what an application is doing in production using JMX and the remote shell and the REST APIs. We looked at how to run one of these applications, right? How to run it in a production system. And how to do that in, I don't know how long we did, but 45 minutes, something like that, with a few jokes, and I spoke slowly in English. So, il y a des questions? En premier, merci d'être venu. Merci beaucoup, merci. Je vous souhaite un agréable Devoxx Morocco. C'est mon Devoxx. C'était un Devoxx, une Devoxx, je sais pas moi. C'est mon Devoxx favori par tout le monde, bien sûr. Alors, merci beaucoup d'être venu. Si vous avez des questions, je serai honoré de leur expliquer. Merci. Oh, et veuillez me suivre sur Twitter, Starbucksman, @Starbucksman. Oh, qui atteint le cran?
Le déploiement dans le cloud.
Quoi?
Le déploiement de l'application dans le cloud.
En cloud?
Dans le cloud.
Cloud, bien sûr. Java minus jar. Ça serait pas si simple. You can throw. So, si vous voulez le déployer au Canada, on dit plateforme numérique cloud, ok? Si vous voulez le déployer dans un cloud, c'est rien du tout. Avec Cloud Foundry, le cloud qui appuie Pivotal et qui développe Pivotal et bien IBM et tout ça, c'est CF push, CF espace push espace minus P, et then il faut que préciser le jar et c'est tout. Ça serait poussé au cloud et soudain c'est courant. Si vous voulez le containeriser avec Docker comme ça, c'est bien simple. Run colon Java minus jar ou bien run colon dot / you say from colon Java 8 run colon and then just the jar. And on peut le configuriser avec des variables environnement. Alors c'est bien facile. Il y a des autres questions? Il doit y en avoir quelques questions. Moi, j'ai des questions et j'étais ici. OK, merci beaucoup. Hein? Oh, yes.
Thank you for the Spring Boot. Just one thing, it's we were asking how we should use and how we use the Spring Boot in easy way. But the question is, in which project we shouldn't use Spring Boot?
Which project should you not use Spring Boot? In the ones where it doesn't have support. So that's like I wouldn't try using Spring Boot on an Android device. It probably wouldn't work. Where would you not?
Legacy code?
So if you wanted to use Spring Boot on a legacy application, an existing application, what I like to do, and of course, everyone is different. What I like to do is I add the jar, and then I add @Spring Boot application to my Spring application. And then, me, a strong drink, alcohol, something very strong. And then I delete code, drink. If it works, I start it, drink some more. Delete more code. If it works, start it, drink some more. Until I'm done. I just delete code. Spring Boot doesn't replace existing Spring. It is Spring. It just automatically provides parts of Spring. And so if you can remove the code and Spring Boot will do it for you, great, you're already done, right? It's a fun way to spend the day. You'll have fun, less code, you'll be happy, code works faster and it's better, less to write, less to test. It's very easy. If you're talking about a legacy application that isn't based on Spring, then yeah, I don't know if you would want to make that jump. What you are asking is, should I move from an existing app that isn't using Spring to an app that is using Spring? That is up to you. I mean, if there's benefits, the Spring ecosystem is huge. So if you want some of those features, it might be worth slowly integrating it. But if not, then that's okay. You shouldn't do something just because. You should do it only if it offers benefits, right? So there are some companies out there, small companies, that are using this very successfully. Netflix, anybody here know of Netflix? Very, very big, right? They're using Spring Boot and Spring Cloud for their services. Big users. What about Alibaba in China? They make more money than Walmart. Hundreds of billions of dollars. Their entire platform is Spring, and now a lot of that is now Spring Boot, right? Baidu, the Chinese search engine, huge, also Spring and Spring Boot now, right? Ticketmaster, they sell tickets, Spring as well. So there are companies that are using it very successfully, and they had to change old code into Spring Boot, but they want to remove the code. For me, I do it because it means I can write less. I got to do this, I can do all that in 40 minutes, It's just less code. It's simple that I can do it now. And if I can do it, you can definitely do it. Okay? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions? Yeah?
Bon voyage.
Merci, hein? Okay. Quoi? Merci. Yes, sir.
What are some resources that you recommend for beginners?
Oh, okay. Great question. Ooh, great question. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this. Spring.io/guides. Okay? Best part of the web. The third best part of the web, after production, after start.spring.io, then the guides. The guides, each guide is very, very small. 10, 15 minutes from zero to end. It takes no time. They are focused on one thing. How to do REST, how to do database, how to do messaging, security, Maven, whatever, all these different things, like 30 different guides. Everything, right? Lots of guides. Very simple, and they all show just one thing to get started. It's not the big application. It's lots of small, tiny applications, and you start to understand how it works. And then you can mix and match. Okay? My pleasure. Anybody else, my friends? Okay, thank you.